Well, welcome everybody. You may be seeing this live, or you may be seeing this later, but we want to welcome you to the lunch break. We are thrilled that we are having these conversations. Lunch break in Las Comadres is all about having conversations about topics that are really important right now, such as handling stress and well-being, and from that to even parenting. So what we are doing is that we are bringing experts from Las Comadres and we are asking them what to do in this situation. Okay, so today we will be talking about managing anxiety now. And it's funny because we've already been doing some exercises, so I'm sure we'll keep having some of those during this conversation. And here we have, okay, we have Alison Janney, who's, and I'm going to read it, not because I don't know, because I want to say the words like correctly. We have Alison Janney, who's a healing facilitator and a spiritual coach and public speaker with us. We also have Jerzy Garcia, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist and psychotherapist. Hi, Jerzy. We have Natalia Vasquez, who is the founder of Heart and Brain Studio, and she's a visual artist and a holistic practitioner. And we also have Jessica Casucci, is how you pronounce it? Okay, Jessica Casucci, who's the founder and executive coach and podcaster. So welcome everyone. We like to start our lunch breaks deep. So I'm going to ask you, what are you grateful for right now? Jerzy, do you want to start?
Today, I'm grateful for being able to work from home. So believe it or not, I know that a lot of us have been working from home probably for a week or a week and a half, but this is actually my first day that I have been allowed to work from home. And it brings me a lot of peace because I can be with my children and not be worried about them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm grateful for today.
Ali, what about you?
In this exact moment, my breath. I'm grateful to be able to connect to my breath and to take deep breaths and sighs and get grounded in any moment.
Jessica?
I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful that I have the ability to have space, to have the people I love around me, to keep them safe, and to also have enough space that I could still get alone and quiet time. And I was reflecting this morning on how vastly different that is from how I grew up and how lucky I am to have built this today so I can make a safe place for them.
What about you, Natalia?
I am grateful for my adaptability, for the ability to just go with the flow with everything that is going on, and to have my practice to keep me grounded and rested and actually feeling very optimistic about everything. Really thankful for the opportunity to be part of this time when so many systems that we know aren't working are collapsing, and to be able to be part of the team of people on this planet to adapt our world to what will actually work for us as humanity as a whole, moving forward.
So, okay, we are talking about anxiety here, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, what does anxiety mean? Because for a while, I would ask myself, am I having anxiety issues? Is this what people talk about? Like, how would you describe anxiety?
I'll jump in with one version. So one version is the literal circular thoughts that never stop, and the living or questioning of the future that is, it's that constant going and going and going. And there's a biological response to being in that state which is ultimately a state of fear, which is like shortness of breath, clammy hands. And it doesn't mean that every time those biological responses happen means that you're in a state of anxiety, but ultimately it's the inability to be present. And I mean, to be present because you're in the future minded based in fear. And so the nervous system is in that sympathetic nervous system of fight or flight, like survival, and just that shift of anxiety is what it looks like.
To add to what Allison said, exactly, you're getting into that sympathetic nervous system, and it's that fear. But anxiety is more of not just the fear of the lion and tiger in front of you. That's the immediate fear, but it's almost the future tripping, the fear of the what if, the unknown, the generalized fear of the what could happen. So you're fighting the known battle of the lion, tiger, and bear, but you're fighting all the unknown battles at the same time mentally. I'm sure Jersey can add to that.
I was going to say the same thing that you said. It was interesting. Actually, I was going to pop in my DSM-5, which is the manual that psychotherapists use to describe or to, mostly for generalized anxiety disorder. But how I describe it to clients when I see them is that you're worried about the future. You're always in future tense. There's some times that you are worried about the past, but most likely anxiety shows up as worrying about the future. And especially because the future is so unknown, it gets triggered by different things. But it's like what you said, Jessica, it's living in the future. And when we at some point in our lives or in certain times in moments, we move into the future and start getting worried about it.
Yes, and to add to that, it is all of that. It is future living, but it's also a paralysis of the present. So you become stuck, but stuck for the external ability to create or to be, but internally there's so much movement and so much activity that it can overwhelm the system. So that's where, the panic attacks could start coming in through anxiety, and where hyperventilation can come in with the breath, and all of this comes from a paralysis, but an overactive mind and central nervous system.
I'm quite sure that many people listening to us are relating to this, and I would love them to have kind of a way of identifying the level of anxiety that they may be feeling. Because are there levels? How can we measure them, and how can we see if we are escalating into something that might be even dangerous for us? Jersey, could you tell us?
So for us, like psychotherapists, we diagnose when whatever is happening to you, whatever you feel that is happening to you, is disrupting your daily way of being, of living. So when you get to a point, because we all have anxiety, it's part of our, we have it in our brains, and it's to help us, it's to protect us. It's always there to protect us, to help us plan, to help us be alert of danger. So when that part of our brain is working too hard, or then, and it's impairing you, you're not being allowed to live your life fully or being how you used to be or are, then that is what they call a disorder, because it's not in order. It's out of order. It's not allowing you. It's basically not having you be capable of doing what you do on a daily basis, because you're either the panic attacks or the shortness of breaths or the thoughts don't let you sleep, don't allow you to sleep. That's when it's disrupting your day-to-day, let's say, operations. That's when you know that there's a bigger problem that you might need support for.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense or if they need more clarification.
No, I think that's great, Jersey. And to add to it, I think it's very personal. So when I have someone who comes in and says, I have anxiety, the first thing I say is, what does that mean? Because for every single person, it's going to be different. Someone might have shortness of breath and someone else will just say, I can't sleep at night. So whatever, even if someone were to give it a scale of like 1 to 10 by comparing, you know, how they felt in the last week or so, it's all relative to each person. And so for everyone to get clear about what it means for them first is a really good barometer.
And a really great example of what Allison said is there were 2 periods in my life where I didn't even realize that it was anxiety. And how it manifested in me was, I like to use myself as an example so I don't give away people's stuff, but I could fall asleep. But what happened was I would keep waking up like a record that kept skipping. And it started off okay. I was waking up a couple of times a night, and then it progressively got worse and worse and worse. And like Jersey said, it starts interfering with my day-to-day, my cognition. I couldn't focus. I was having trouble concentrating, and it was all because my anxiety was coming through my brain waves and it was interrupting my sleep pattern. So that interruption in anything, like you said, your digestion, your cognition, your sleeping, exactly, you're interrupting your day-to-day. And you might not even realize it's anxiety because you boxed it away in an area where, I think I'm getting everything done. I'm doing all this. I'm breathing fine. I'm going to the gym. I'm doing everything. But there's still this lingering thing that's changing how you go about your day-to-day. You know, that was just another example.
Yeah, all of these are great points. And I also love to use myself as an example. I used to suffer from anxiety attacks pretty regularly in my adolescence and in my 20s. And I remember it just taking over. And it just felt like it was from one second to the next. And what I learned is the process of self-regulation, where you start to recognize like the patterns of thought, you start to recognize, or I started to recognize with myself, and then this is now what I clients through, you know, is start to recognize when your breath starts to change, which situations trigger that change. And usually, I know we don't like to think about it so much, but usually there's a root cause, right? There's a situation that's causing a certain kind of pattern. So taking the time to do the work to go within, beyond just self-regulating in the moment, but to be able to give yourself that self-care and that love and that practice of, in yogic terminology, ahimsa and non-violence with yourself, which is basically learning to reclaim your power over it so that it doesn't just take over, so that you remember that within your being is a mechanism that is there to heal you and that is there to guide you and support you. So that's just adding to what everyone already said.
Yeah, I love it. What I find is that now listening to you, you mentioned that you have to work on what's the root of that anxiety. And I feel at the same time that right now we are living in such a unprecedented and challenging moment that we can assume that everybody is being affected, but the way they are showing it could be totally different. And what I'm wondering is this sense of collectiveness, collective anxiety, you could say, is that affecting in some other way? Like, how does a context that is so challenging and where everybody is affect everybody is like my own, your own anxiety? I know Jerzy has something to say.
Well, the anxiety is contagious. It is
Okay.
absolutely contagious. We have seen it in labs, in labs, and in rats, and also as in us, in human beings, that anxiety is contagious. So if somebody in our family, or if somebody that we're close to, or even our neighborhood or the world is in really in high in anxiety level, we are going to feel it too. So yeah, we definitely have, and that's the amazing thing, that sometimes we don't think we are, but we are so connected as human beings. We are absolutely so connected that the anxiety, and also when in depression as well, depression is contagious, and I don't want to say contagious as is like I touch you or I sneeze on you and you're going to get it, but that we are able to feel it somatically, basically by our bodies, other people's feelings. So if there's a lot of depression, if there's a lot of anxiety around it, we are going to start going there. We're going to start receiving it. And I think it's important to, like it was mentioned before by Natalia, about how do you kind of try to anchor yourself and regulate yourself. I mentioned before that we all have anxiety. We all have this little thing in our amygdala in our brain that is there to protect us, is there for survival. I always tell my clients that we have two things. We have the amygdala that's there to survive, to protect our body to survive, and our soul to help us grow. And the soul and the amygdala, sometimes it's hard to work with them, because the amygdala just wants to make sure to preserve you, to make sure that you're going to be okay, that you're going to survive, that you're going to be able to breathe, eat, function. And the soul wants you to grow, and that means taking risks. So anxiety does not like uncertainty. It doesn't like the unknown. And when it doesn't have the unknown, it just it blows up. It creates. So that's why it's easy to, let's say, pass it on in big groups, because if we all are in a state of uncertainty, I don't know what's going to happen next. Every day we have a different story of what's going, then we all going to feel it. It's going to spread widely, because anxiety, the amygdala does not like to not know what's going to happen. And that's one of the biggest trigger points, let's say, for anxiety.
Well, I'll go next.
Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Jessica.
No, I was just saying, when you talk about the anxiety is contagious, one of the things that I've been talking to people this week about is, because I had questions of people asking how I'm getting anxious because of the way people are dealing with this, whether I view them as not taking enough precautions or over worrying. And so I've been talking to people a lot, social distancing, but creating emotional boundaries with people. That doesn't mean you're not caring for your friends and family. It's just protecting your energy and your spirit, so you can process things in a healthy way. Right now, a lot of us are physically distant in some ways, and some of us are physically close together. So we don't necessarily have that physical space if some people's actions might be triggering us in different ways and increasing our anxiety. So one of the things that I've been talking to people about is trying to have those conversations where you say, for example, if someone is constantly worrying, venting, taking something to the extreme, and that's just stressing you out, so you can't focus on what you need to do every day, say, look, nicely, I recognize that you need to talk about this, that you have concerns, but I've got a simple request. For me, it makes my day harder to get through. So can we talk about this at a certain time? Because otherwise I can't go about my day. I'll just keep worrying about this. And for a little while, I need to focus on what I need to get done. Otherwise, I'm not going to be healthy and productive. And then I can't be there for you later on. So you're acknowledging the person's feelings nicely if you can, trying to set those boundaries a little bit. But then you're also kind of, I call it like, you know, those old commercials, set it and forget it, but you're time boxing, you're scheduling that moment you're connecting with them, but you're also scheduling when you're going to worry about it so you can handle it, and then let it go. So one of the things that I've been talking to people a lot is just trying how we can work with the people we love, the people we're around, and set boundaries, or even setting boundaries with the news, because like Jersey was saying, anxiety is contagious. So what do? Like, we're social distancing. We have to somehow emotional distance. Bronx to English, sometimes I can't get the words out, but you guys get the gist. It's just putting that protective emotional boundary for yourself so you can block off taking on some of that.
Yes, and to add to that, like in a way, we're lucky to have technology, and we're lucky to have this connection, and we can connect with, with Esther in Spain, with each other here, with our friends and family all over the world, essentially. And we can also hear from each other what's going on, like in people's reality beyond the news. But in addition to that, something that I've noticed as people have been transitioning all of their material online, everything, there's been like this frantic energy about getting everything going online. Where for a while, for me, it was stressful because I'd enter Instagram and like everyone I knew was live. And it's like, I don't even know who to tune into. I'm not going to tune into anyone. So it was, in a way, what I'm feeling more and more is the call to simplicity, to use technology as a tool, but then to be called to simplicity in our day-to-day, like moment by moment interactions. Like, enjoy your cooking, your home, sit down and savor your tea. Write, read, don't do anything, sleep in. Like, we're all in this together, and everyone's finances are being affected. And what's being shown is, again, because we've been aware of it, but it's being broadcast again, financial inequality. So we're able now, with this energy of anxiety, because it is energy and it is coming through in waves, right, to harness it and to use it for recreating something, right? Whatever it is that we decide. So whenever I get into this mode of like, I try to just remind myself, and I speak out loud to myself, and I'm like, come on, Natalita, what are we gonna do here? Like, my grandmother used to call me Natalita. So I try to just like, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do here? Like, focus on what you want. So if we're going to take the energy of anxiety, which is future thinking, let's use it to focus on what we want to create in the future while we're in that wave of that energy, right? So I just start then envisioning and like dreaming instead of going into apocalyptic, catastrophic thinking. And that's not always that easy. Again, anxiety sometimes just takes over. And if you haven't broken the pattern of apocalyptic thinking, then it's easier said than done to do that, right? But it's just about remembering that energy comes in waves, and anxiety is an energy, and we're all in it, but we can choose to like not ride that wave, or we could choose to direct our attention in a focused way for what we're creating.
You're shifting your thoughts to what you can control and what is true. It's, you think of, is this true? Is this true right now? If it's not true, great, then I don't have to deal with this right now. Will it be true tomorrow? Okay, maybe. What can I do about it? So you shift your brain from the what ifs. You call it apocalyptic thinking. I call it the suck spiral. The what ifs that are spinning around to, okay, what's my plan? And it moves all of us. So right now, a lot of people feel powerless with all this, to everything that's going on, to your own movement. And that's as Americans, that's something we're completely not used to. So shifting your thinking into what you can influence and what you can control in the future and creating a plan, it just starts turning on the right pathways in your brain, the right pathways to move forward and shift out of that. And I love it's like you were saying, all that energy coming at you, taking a pause to breathe and then thinking about how you can move forward, you know, versus just being bombarded right now.
I'm loving this so much because I was starting to think that I was a little bit of a weirdo, because among the apocalyptic thoughts, I was having moments of how thrilling is this, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe things are going to change so much for the better. Maybe in 10 years time we are like society, like the structures that need to fall like, and I was feeling like I want to see what happens. And then it was like, okay, everybody's freaking out, you should be freaking out too, like what's wrong with me? But now that you say that, I love the idea of since anxiety is future oriented, you can still use that energy but for a different purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to add, oh, go on.
Okay. No, it's interesting because, right, anxiety is future focused. And at the same time, like I keep reminding people, especially in the last week, is like, we're never upset for the reason we think we are. So if we can get to, okay, something happened, or we're no longer getting income, take it back and back and back and back and get to the core of like, what is the root of what this expression of anxiety is about? Maybe it's about safety. Maybe it's about the story and the conversation of I'm not safe, or I'm not held, or I'm not loved, or I'm not worthy. Like it's always getting to the root of it, because whatever is showing up, it's an expression also of, I want to say dysfunction, but it's like there's a split in the conversation in our mind of what is actually happening. So airing out those like unfinished thoughts is really important. And like Jessica said, like, yes, have boundaries. You know, if you're with a partner and say, I need to express, or with a friend, I need to express, like get permission. But there's so many benefits to like releasing the mental load, and then also doing the work backwards of, okay, anxiety is coming up. I'm worried about money. Well, okay, what else is there? Like, what's the deeper meaning? Okay, well, having money means I can't provide for my children. Okay, what happens if I can't provide for my children? Like go all the way back and then work with that core issue, because most likely it's completely different than what's actually showing up. And I even want to bring up, even this morning, like when I was having coffee, the thing that came up for me was just expressing like, okay, these are the what ifs, these are the variables, and ultimately getting moved to tears that the reality is what I'm feeling, everyone is feeling. And one of those feelings is we have related productivity to our value. And not being productive in the same way that we are used to being productive is a strike to the ego. It is, you know, used as a weapon by our ego, instead of coming back to the place of like, actually the change I want to see in the world is the US becomes like a lot of European countries, where there is a long 3-hour siesta in the day, because we get to rest, we get to create space to honor, like wherever we are, we get to exhale from our day. And our value is about who we are, not how much we get done. And when I got to that point this morning, I was like, this is the world we're creating, where we're starting to restructure this. The anxiety about money and all the other stories is really pointing to like, this is the wound, but this is what we're creating right here. And like enrolling everyone in that space of like, this is what possibility could look like. And we could all collectively exhale for a moment. So.
I wanted to add, that was beautiful. Thank you, Ali, because what I find too is that with some of the people, some of the individuals that I work with, and also even family members, it's very hard to explain this to them or for them to hear it or to be able to take it in, because they are in such a heightened state where, again, back at my psychotherapy hat, the amygdala is so fired up that they're only thinking of survival. They're only thinking of like, this thing is gonna do this thing to me. Or I was actually heard there was a news where I think somebody in New York City in an emergency room actually heard an elderly woman who was not there for the virus, was there for, but because she wasn't doing the or at least the distancing, the person felt threatened that she got too close to her and actually hit her. It hit her to the point where eventually she died of the injury of the. So because the other person is in survival mode, it's in like, anything that is in danger to me, I am going to, because I'm the amygdala is only thinking about, how can I survive? How can I make sure that nothing happens to me? So when that happens, and how I explain it to clients as well, and to some of our family members when they're able to listen, is that when the amygdala is fired up and is in that survival mode, which is only fight or flight or freeze, what happens to our body is too that some other parts of our body shuts down, or not that shuts down completely, but it kind of underworks, because now it needs all this energy, because the amygdala is calling up all this energy to think about a solution. Because that's what happens when we get on those repetitive thoughts, is that the amygdala is like, oh, okay, here's a problem. You're just telling me that you're going to be homeless in a couple of weeks. Let's start getting, and then you get in that spiral. So the other systems that kind of start shutting down, your digestive system starts. That's why some people that suffer from generalized anxieties have stomach problems, because their stomach stops shutting down, and those acid from our stomach starts kind of like bubbling up, and then other parts of our brain start not shutting down, but again, getting a little foggy. And that part of our brain is our frontal cortex, which is the front part of our brain. And it's the part of our brain that helps us think, think of emotions, to be compassionate, to actually rationalize, to really come up with ideas, to calm ourselves. So the amygdala says, right now I'm the boss. There's an emergency, and I'm the emergency person here. So I don't need you, frontal cortex, which is the front part of the brain. So it shuts it down. So it keeps you in that heightened state to try to lower other functions of the body. So I always recommend for when people get into that space, is to, how can you engage your frontal cortex? How can you, because what we want that front part of our brain, because we want to be able to engage it again, so we can calm ourselves down, so we can let the amygdala know this is not an emergency. There's no fire here. Nothing's happening. A car is not coming to hit me, or a lion is not coming to bite my head off. It's so a way to, and I know that you have mentioned it here before, to engage again your frontal cortex, is to take a deep breath, is just slow it down. It's to come back to your power, to say, hey, frontal cortex, come back in, come up. I need you right now, because amygdala is going crazy. It's warm, is off the charts. And taking a breath, distracting yourself, trying to just ground yourself, come back to yourself, so the amygdala can take a break. It might start again, but at least it has a pause, because the amygdala doesn't take a break. It just goes on, and then it gets the body overwhelmed, because it's just trying to get it all worked up to do its job. So just think of things that you can do, grounding techniques from what's in the room. What do I see? What are like 5 things that I'm seeing in this room? What are 4 things that I'm hearing around here? what are 3 things that I'm like smelling? What's one thing that I can taste? Just to kind of ground ourselves. So breathe and take a deep breath to bring back and engage the frontal cortex, and then say, okay, all right, now I can think, or am I really need to worry right now? So that's just something that I wanted to bring, especially for those individuals that can't get to that point of really digging deep of why this is coming up. Because sometimes, and most times, some clients can't do it. Some people can't get into the kind of like that deeper knowing and really analyze, why is this anxiety coming up?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jersey. That actually connects with something that I wanted to talk about, which is sometimes anxiety does come over. Like, you can be as prepared or unprepared, but sometimes it just happens. What exercises or what techniques could you recommend somebody that's listening, that the moment you feel like it is really taking over, what can you do? Could be something that you do, could be something that you recommend to clients. What would you recommend? Ali?
I definitely go always to connect to your breath.
Okay.
Because what you're trying to do is what Jersey said, which is get present and drop the nervous system down. So connecting to the breath, whether it is closing your eyes so you take away like overstimulation. Mm-hmm. So if you're watching the TV or something, like turn that off or just close your eyes and connect to the breath, and even just audible exhales. And whether it's like equal count in and out of the breath, that starts to shift the nervous system. But anything that will drop you into the present moment. So even if it's sensory, like, okay, what is touching my feet right now? Okay, the carpet, what's the carpet feel like? What's the texture? What's this? But sometimes, like Jersey mentioned, like it'll just come over. And one of the quickest ways is to breathe. And then I know a lot of people may not be able to do it, but I've even noticed it with myself. It's like you feel stuff rising and then it could turn into like emotion, rage, whatever. It's like, okay, let me bring it down. Make it really present to like the body response, and connect and connect and connect, and like look around. There are no tigers. There are no tigers. This is my internal environment going on. So that's definitely like the quickest way. Tune into the body, shift the response, and sometimes the most somebody can do is connect to their breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, the breath is everything, and heart breathing. So let me see, maybe I'll like stand, like just placing your hands over your heart space and then feeling your heartbeat and using the pressure of your own hands to like kind of match the pressure of your heartbeat and start to regulate your breath with your own heartbeat. That's what you could do anywhere. So regardless of where you are, like engage your thighs. You already have that energy to kind of like get it, right? So like engage your thighs, ground down your feet, and like connect to your heart. And your breath might at first be very shallow. It might be very short. It'll bring up emotion, but it's your own hands soothing yourself. So check in. Is it connected to rage? We don't talk about rage. There's so much rage right now. The energy of rage is directly connected to anxiety. Is there fear? Is there sadness? What is it that is going on and that you're feeling? And like use your own body to self-soothe. One thing. And then later on, like I can, there's a couple like yoga postures, but if it's what Jersey's talking about, where it just comes on, like it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in public. You might not want to get into a yoga pose or into a Taekwondo rage release session, but I could show you a few things for when you're on your own later. But like this one, nobody even needs to notice, right? Just like ground yourself down, touch something, like if there's something to touch, but your body is always there for you to touch.
Mm-hmm.
And your heart is everything. Your heart and your breath are everything.
I guess for me, since the ladies covered breathing, because that's always the first thing I do. You know, I do 4x4 breathing, but exactly what everybody just said. So after you kind of tap into your breathing and get that under control, I'm a planner, right? And so we all know these moments can come up or may come up. So have your go-to responses ready. So what is that favorite piece of music that gives you joy no matter what? What is that silly cat video? Think about the things that you can do that automatically shift your mood. And it might not work the first minute, the first second, but it'll start kicking in, and your sense memory will also start kicking in. So you've got your heart rate down, and whether it's the song or the cat video, we're not talking about going for the vodka bottle or the third piece of cheesecake. Not that that doesn't happen once in a while, it's all good, but we don't want to do that on a regular basis. So think about the live on a day where it's good, when you're fine, think about the things that give you joy, that put that smile on your face, that you can feel it, that you know what that room smells like, what that music, that beat feels like in your heart. What are those things that call in those senses in all your body, so that when the anxiety comes up, you know, it's that language, it's that call and response. Like I'm learning Spanish and Italian. What do you say? Ooh, my dog just knocked over my light. Hold on. It's all good. I love him. It's not broken. It's fine. So no calamity here. But that's live audio, everybody. But think about those things. Like I said, I have songs that I go to, I dance. That's what gives me joy no matter what. If I have pets, if you have pets, I pet them. Going for a walk, if you can, have that repertoire of things. Oh, your favorite book. And now is the time where it's okay to go down the funnel of silly cat, dog, and whatever videos. It's okay to do that. Give yourself that permission. And then so you're ready. Have them favorite, bookmark them. So after you've got the breath in check, do that. And there's scientific studies that say, you know, when you're in fight or flight, your sympathetic nervous system is going, your cortisol goes up. When your cortisol goes up, besides all the fun effects of you gain weight, it slows your metabolism, but also it affects your immune system. It lowers it. So no one wants to be lowering their immune system right now. So anything that we can do, from breathing to experiencing pleasurable moments. And the quicker you can do those things, the quicker you can drop your cortisol down. There's studies that show if you can have a pleasurable experience immediately after a stressful fight or flight, it can negate the physical effects in your body. So it can drop the cortisol down, and we can bring our immunities back up. Because at the end of the day, we need to mentally be well, but we also need to be physically well right now. So that's kind of my follow on from the breath work. I would go find your library of joy right now, anything, whatever it is, in a, healthy parameters, and go for it and have it ready to go.
I want to share, I have one right now, which is, I have a nephew that's like 1 year old, and I paint. So my sister sent me a video of him babbling, because he doesn't speak yet, like pointing to my painting, and it seemed like he was analyzing it somehow. I don't know, it's the cutest, funniest thing ever. And now every time I feel that my stress or my anxiety are going up, I just take my phone and see that video. It's 1 minute, and I can feel like my body is like, oh, okay, and I immediately feel better. It's amazing.
That's it.
So yeah, my cat or dog Mimi, it's my nephew.
I love it. This is awesome, because ultimately everything right now is coming to joy and pleasure. Those are the two main things, to just shift the body as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And I call, Jessica, I love how you said those. I call those your anxiety interrupters. So for anybody who wants to kind of create their like little toolbox, and that they'll know, especially if you're a planner, have your 3 anxiety interrupters. You know that once you do those 3 things, or one of those you can go to, they interrupt the anxiety, they distract it, they put it somewhere else. So yeah, it's good to have like your little toolbox to help you out.
Also, Natalia, you mentioned about yoga poses that you could share with us. Do you think you can share them with us?
Course.
So, okay.
Of
So,
course. So I think I'm gonna use that couch, although because it's what's in the view. But what I recommend is to do it grounded, like on a firmer surface, like on the floor. So I'm gonna show a child's pose with your arms back, where you can use your own thighs to press into your chest, and then when you breathe, you can imagine your chest expanding into your thighs and then the back of your heart. So essentially the space between your shoulder blades rising as well. So it's giving you space in your chest, and then your rib cage will automatically expand outward with your breath. So imagine that. And I'm also going to use those pillows there in case, you don't necessarily reach your chest to your thighs right away. You can always use whatever it is that you have around you to add support. So that's going to be one. And then I'm going to show you a Taekwondo like rage release. Okay. Because I think rage release is good too. So child's pose, can you see me here?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so child's pose is basically toes touching. And for this one, we're going to keep the knees together. And then you sit back on your heels and basically just lean forward and press your forehead down. And your forehead down presses into your third eye center, which is automatically calming as well. And this whole thing is activating. So when we're in fight or flight mode, like everything gets activated in the mind. And something also to regulate those racing thoughts is like counting or singing a song or, a kid's song. So like you can just do that. And it's not even about counting for your breath. It's because sometimes your breath is very unstable at the beginning. So the stress of being like, 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out, it can add to the anxiety to some people. So just let your breath be as it is and like regulate your mind by just counting all the way as far as you can or singing a song or something. So it's basically just this. And then if you need the extra support, you can place pillows between, and then you're really supported. And the front of your body is your yin front part of the body. So this is the calming part. So when you support the front of your body, you are automatically tuning into like your divine, feminine, soothing, intuitive energies. And then with the back of your body exposed and you're imagining breathing into your heart, just a few minutes here, and your breath will start to lengthen. And I don't want to take up too much time, but the next one is a Taekwondo activity. So here my feet are grounded and kind of like beyond my hips. So basically the length of like an arm or another leg, and then bending down. So could be called a horse stance. And this is for like rage release, where you're just gonna punch. So breathe in and breathe out. And you may not want to do that at the supermarket, but
or you may want to.
Immediately,
or you might,
or you might,
while you wait in line.
But that immediately like gets you into the power of your legs, into your grounding, and it connects you to your sense of power, and it lets you just like get it out. This is a lot about like shaking and moving, and it's time to be weird, everyone. Be weird.
Absolutely.
We've been like so like constrained by systems. Now is the time to like tune in, allow yourself to be with poses like child's pose, and then come out, reclaim your power, and then shake it off for fear, and just be weird. Be whatever you feel like you want to be right now. Yeah. We're like in that state of free reign to like be who we want to be.
I'm taking that, like, just be weird. That's what I'm going to go for.
Yeah, absolutely. Be as weird as possible. And especially with anxiety, I mean, Jessica brought it up, but moving the body, period, like dancing, stomping, like wait till your, loved one goes to the grocery store and like straight up use your voice, move it out, like whatever expression looks like right now, even if it's loud, weird, and doesn't physically or emotionally hurt someone, get it out. Get it out.
Singing
And I
is a
want to
huge
add one
one
more
too.
thing. That child's pose, you could stay there for a long time. And the longer you stay there, you will reset to your divine vibration. And I know this might sound wishy-washy, but like seriously, like the longer you breathe cocooned within yourself, you will start to neutralize all of that activity. And just imagine layers of neutralize one layer, go deeper. Neutralize that layer, go deeper. Neutralize that one, go deeper. And until you return to your heart, like it's all inside of you. It's all inside of you. And right now, sometimes we feel like we want to hide, and we are in a beautiful opportunity to just like whoosh, cocoon into yourself. And it's okay. It's okay. There's nothing else for us to do. We can't go anywhere.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I want to be mindful of your time, and well, since we had some issues with Facebook, like we weren't able to live stream this, we'll be adding it later. So we don't have comments and questions right now, but we might afterwards. So if you are watching this and you have some questions that come up, just share them with us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Well, I want to thank you, Ali, Jersey, Jessica, Natalia. Thank you so much. I literally feel better just by talking with you. Just by talking so much about breath, I become so much more mindful of my own. And I do think that you gave a lot of insights and a lot of good practices to navigate these weird times. And one of the ways it's actually being weird. So that's great. And also, for those who are watching, just know that we will be having this break lunch every weekday at noon. So you can join us. We will be having different topics with different experts, just like today. And also know that our community is also feeling the moment, and if you'd like to donate to this community or to anyone who impacted you today, you can find the information included on the text on the post. You have all the instructions in there, and I think basically that's it. So again, thank you, all of you. And well, just before you go, is there anything you want to add?
I just wanted to add though, that don't forget about good sleep, good eat, taking care of your body, and exercise. It doesn't mean exercise, but walking and just moving your body like it was mentioned before. That's great for anxiety. It reduces it and it helps you manage it better. So.
Great. Thank you, Jersey. Okay, well, take care. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'll see you around, okay?